Signs of destruction are still everywhere in the Mount Everest region of Nepal's Khumbu Valley, 6 months after the big quake. 19 people lost their lives at the base camp of Mount Qomolangma, known to the Western world as Everest, when the April 2015 earthquake triggered an avalanche. After a devastating spring season, locals are relieved to see tourists slowly coming back to the Khumbu Valley. And trekking guides like Dawatashi Sherpa are back to work. Dawatashi had worked as a high-altitude climbing guide and porter on mountaineering expeditions, but his last trip almost cost him his life. On the morning of April 18, 2014, a year before the earthquake, Dawatashi was ferrying loads across the upper section of the Khumbu Glacier, an area notorious for falling ice and littered with deep crevasses. Suddenly, disaster struck.
On the way, there's lots of traffic jam, and we waited a few minutes. At the same time, the avalanche hit. We are 13 people altogether, but nowadays I'm only alive. Being very sad, I lost my 12 friends in the same place.
One of the few survivors struck by the avalanche, Dawatashi broke 4 ribs, his shoulder and nose.
Yeah. And this one is of 2008 with Upper Sherpa. Yeah.
His fellow expedition worker, Kaji Sherpa, died, leaving his then 18-year-old daughter, Chechi, to take care of 5 younger siblings.
He was always in love with mountains, and since he was engaged in this sector since from 15 years, and he was ready to do everything for the mountaineering.
Today, pictures are all that's left as reminders of the family's sole breadwinner, a beloved father, an accomplished mountaineer. With no motor roads, transporting loads for tourists and remote mountain communities is the main source of income for many people in the Mount Everest region. The higher porters go, the more they get paid, and expedition jobs that require technical skills to climb icy slopes and cross deep crevasses are not for everyone. For generations, ethnic Sherpas who live in the eastern Himalayan region have been assisting mountaineering expeditions. Up to 90% of high-altitude workers are Sherpas, a fact that has made Sherpa a household name. Like many of his climbing friends, Dawatashi Sherpa started working at a young age out of necessity.
I stopped my study when I was 12 years old, and then I started to work as a porter in the mountain. My parents are a farmer. It's a bit difficult to run my education, and I saw they are facing very difficult, and I left my study.
After a few years as a porter, Dawa wanted to be a high-altitude worker, lured not only by the promise of better pay.
I want to become an international mountain guide. We have to climb 8,000 meters peak. It's not a small thing to get on top of the world.
In April 2013, Dawatashi summited Mount Everest for the first time, a step towards securing his future in the climbing industry.
If you climb Everest, you obviously most likely to get employed again and again, especially on a smaller peak. There's always going to be people who want to go, and that's definitely yes, because it's the highest and it pays highest. So that there's like double drive,
Despite the dangers, the money keeps people coming back to expedition jobs. Top workers can expect to earn up to $6,000 working 2 seasons a year, a huge amount in this impoverished country where average annual salaries are about $600. For decades, ethnic Sherpas have literally served as a backbone for Nepal's expedition service industry that brings in millions of dollars in annual revenues to the country. And while the hard work of expedition workers have helped improve life for their families, for many, this has also come at an irreparable cost. Aside from natural disasters, Sherpas face health risks because they breathe limited amounts of oxygen for long periods while at work. In 2012, Jangmu's husband, Dawa Tenzing, suffered a stroke at 6,200 meters above sea level while on an expedition. He was airlifted to a hospital in Kathmandu, but soon died. Despite her loss, Jangmu leaves little room for emotion and remains practical about the job that cost her husband his life.
Tamanu mikro masini warulungba hotel is not taking is not kang is not kalewojima kang masini mila uzemegi wasini along mite te me yalong kang boshon dagima nga tamaka nga kang de den indesremido.
66-year-old Lakpa Galjian was working with a Chinese expedition on the north face of Everest in 2000 when he suffered a stroke above 8,000 meters.
Select without food, without children, without medicine. No parent.
The stroke left him partially paralyzed and permanently disabled.
Yeah, good people.
Unable to cope, his wife left him. Lakpa had no insurance cover
Somebody help me.
and gets by with help from his neighbors,
Lama help me.
who are also helping to rebuild his earthquake-damaged house. With barely any other sources of income, many here see expeditions as a necessity. Kanchanuru Sherpa summited Mount Everest 5 times. When not on expeditions, he spends time taking care of his yaks. But now, he's looking forward to the next climbing season.
Laka kangding dubagi laka side kang tanda kang yak kuline jini kang redam ne kang redam san kang redam sar dubba nama yak kulung dubba nama laka ya yuk dubai la origi menat kasi menat kan misi nama kang origi laka ya yuk dubai.
According to the Himalayan database, 174 local expedition workers have died while working in the mountains in Nepal between 1993 and 2013 alone. 72 of those deaths were on Mount Everest. Till date, 113 Nepalese workers have died on Mount Everest since expeditions first began. The ever-present risk of something going wrong in the mountains makes many families beg their relatives in the expedition business to find other jobs. In Kathmandu, 7-time Everest summiteer Ang Nyamgyal Sherpa is now assembling watches for an American luxury brand. A job offered to him by the owner of the company who had summited Mount Everest with Nyamgyal as his guide.
I miss climbing, but I'm retired now because my family, they don't want me to climb again.
Although he's moved on, Nyamgyal believes the work of climbing Sherpas should continue.
Tourism is the most important for Nepal, The Sherpas had been climbing from 1953, So I think the Sherpas has to climb the Everest or climb other mountains.
Because of the risks that come with climbing, residents here believe expedition workers need to have more support and better insurance cover. After the 2014 Everest avalanche, Nepal's government offered $400 each to the victims' families. The tiny compensation angered expedition workers. They went on a strike, forcing the government to accept demands to increase life insurance cover to a sum of $15,000. Medical insurance cover was also hiked to about $5,000, and for the first time, insurance cover was made mandatory for all expeditions on all peaks. Industry insiders say more has to be done beyond just giving climbing Sherpas better insurance.
To make mountains safer, obviously somebody has to go and train people. The money has to be spent there. We especially saying better pay for the high altitude like the workers, especially Everest, because we know It's a big industry, and they are taking a lot of risks because they're going there more often than any other mountains. So they're doing the trips through the icefall more. One other thing is like there's certain things the government could do better to regulate mountains better.
Since the two disasters, Nepal has also announced new regulations to limit the number of climbers allowed on Mount Everest, preventing those with physical disabilities and without prior experience from climbing. But some tourists, like British climber Roger Owen, don't fully agree.
I don't think there necessarily needs to be a restriction on numbers. I think one of the restrictions needs to be around the skill and the experience people have had previous to climbing Everest. I mean, we were watching people on the final buttress that's at nearly 29,000 feet called the Hillary Step. We were watching them being taught to climb it. It's difficult at 29,000 feet, but it's a simple piece of rock at sea level. But these were people being taught the basics of rock climbing, and they were holding everybody else up, which puts everybody in danger.
For many families of expedition workers killed on the job, it's a struggle to get government help.
At first, it was very difficult to handle. Yeah, obviously, trekking agency and other foreigner agencies, they are helping us more in comparison to the government.
Meanwhile at home, Dawatashi is grateful for his second chance at life and the opportunity to witness the birth of his son, born just a few months after his accident. The little family is grateful for the time they have to spend together, but there is the future to consider.
But nowadays, yeah, my family all says go abroad, find some job in foreign countries and work there. To get a visa, to go there, it's very difficult for us. So that's why most of the people are working mountain. Even after that much accident, I'm enjoying with mountain too. Being a mountaineer, yeah.
After 2 years of tragedy, Nepal's mountaineering community is hoping for better times.
Yeah, so hopefully this is it for the bad luck. We will be going again on south side in 2016. Yeah, trying to do everything as normal and not to get too sentimental about what happened in the past and get bogged down by that. Just trying to do everything as usual and trying to do it even better. Yeah.
The last 2 years have been some of the most difficult for Nepal's mountaineering community. The hope now is that lessons learned from the last disasters will help secure a better future for expedition workers and their loved ones. For Assignment Asia, this is Pearly Jacob in Nepal.